Luna, a 3-year-old pit bull mix, had been forced to give birth in the concrete basement of an abandoned warehouse in South Phoenix, her 6 newborn puppies crying weakly as she tried to protect them from the men who had been using her as breeding stock for their illegal dog-fighting operation. The exhausted mother dog had bite marks covering her body from being used as a bait dog to train fighters, but her maternal instincts kept her alert and protective, despite her own pain and malnutrition. "She's no good for fighting anymore," sneered Jake Morrison, the 34-year-old ringleader of the operation, pointing at Luna's swollen mammary glands. "But the pups might be worth something in a few months. Keep her alive long enough to wean them, then we'll see what she's good for." That's when fate intervened. 47 members of the Desert Guardians MC were riding past the warehouse district when club president and former Marine Sergeant Marcus Steele Rodriguez noticed something that made his blood boil: the unmistakable sounds of dogs in distress echoing from a building that should have been empty. These leather-clad protectors were about to prove that real bikers don't just defend humans, they stand up for every innocent life that needs protection, no matter how many legs it has. Would you like to join us for this incredible journey? Subscribe to our channel now so you don't miss what happens next. The Desert Guardians Motorcycle Club had been patrolling the highways and streets of Arizona for over 9 years, their membership consisting of military veterans, former police officers, emergency medical technicians, and animal welfare advocates who had found brotherhood and purpose through their shared commitment to protecting the vulnerable. What had started as weekend rides among former Marines had evolved into the most respected animal rescue organization in the Southwest. Sergeant Marcus Steele Rodriguez, the 45-year-old former Marine who led the Desert Guardians, was conducting their monthly ride to raise funds for local animal shelters when his combat-trained hearing detected something that made every protective instinct he possessed flare to life. The sound of multiple dogs in distress was unmistakable to someone who had served with military working dogs in Afghanistan. "All units, possible animal emergency," Steele commanded through his helmet radio to the 47 riders spread across 3 miles of highway. "Multiple dogs in distress, abandoned warehouse district on Industrial Boulevard. This could be our kind of mission, brothers." The response was immediate and coordinated. 47 motorcycles began converging on Steele's coordinates with military precision, their engines creating a mechanical thunder that echoed through the desert landscape. These weren't casual weekend riders. They were former soldiers, law enforcement officers, and animal welfare specialists who understood that innocent creatures often needed protection from the worst aspects of human nature. Captain Jennifer Phoenix Martinez, a former Army veterinary technician riding with the East Valley chapter, was first to confirm the nature of the emergency. "Steele, I'm picking up sounds consistent with a large-scale dogfighting operation," she radioed back after conducting acoustic reconnaissance. "Multiple animals, obvious distress indicators, and what sounds like human voices coordinating activities." Through her military-grade surveillance equipment, Phoenix could detect the audio signatures that her specialized training had taught her to recognize. Dogfighting operations produced distinctive sound patterns: aggressive barking, whimpering from injured animals, and the excited voices of humans gambling on animal violence. "Jesus Christ," whispered Staff Sergeant Rick Doc Thompson, a former Navy medic whose experience treating wounded military dogs had given him deep empathy for animal suffering. "If this is what it sounds like, we're looking at organized animal cruelty on a massive scale." Steele felt his protective instincts engage as he processed the tactical assessment combined with the intelligence Phoenix was providing. Dogfighting operations were notoriously violent enterprises that often involved weapons, large amounts of cash, and people willing to commit extreme violence to protect their illegal activities. "All units, approach with extreme caution," Steele ordered, his Marine Corps training automatically engaging as he shifted into tactical mode. "We're dealing with potential criminal activity involving animal cruelty. Priority 1 is intelligence gathering. Priority 2 is animal welfare assessment. We do this by the book. If you're enjoying the story, write from which city you're listening to in the comments." The 47 Desert Guardians members who responded to the warehouse district that afternoon represented an unprecedented combination of military training, animal welfare expertise, and protective commitment that would prove invaluable for what they were about to discover. Former soldiers who had worked with bomb detection dogs, veterinary technicians who understood animal medical needs, and law enforcement officers who knew how to gather evidence and coordinate with official agencies. Phoenix dismounted her motorcycle first, using her army training to conduct a tactical reconnaissance of the warehouse perimeter. What she discovered through thermal imaging equipment and acoustic surveillance confirmed their worst fears. This was a major dogfighting operation involving dozens of animals and multiple human participants. "Steele, we have confirmed animal cruelty operation," Phoenix reported through encrypted communications. Thermal imaging shows approximately 30 to 40 dogs in basement-level confinement, multiple human heat signatures, and evidence of recent construction consistent with fighting pit preparation. The intelligence was devastating, but not surprising to Desert Guardians members who had encountered similar operations during their 9 years of animal rescue activities. Arizona's remote desert locations made it attractive for criminals who wanted to operate illegal enterprises away from law enforcement surveillance. Steele studied the warehouse through his binoculars, his military experience allowing him to assess both the tactical challenges and the moral imperatives they were facing. The building was isolated, defensible, and obviously being used for activities that its operators wanted to keep hidden from authorities. "Doc, what's our legal position if we discover evidence of animal cruelty?" Steele asked, understanding that their rescue activities needed to be coordinated with law enforcement to ensure successful prosecution of the perpetrators. "Arizona revised statutes give us clear authority to intervene in cases of animal abuse," replied Dr. Thompson, whose veterinary training included knowledge of animal welfare law. "If we document evidence of cruelty, we can legally remove animals from dangerous situations while coordinating with police and animal control." The legal framework was important, but Steele's primary concern was the immediate welfare of animals who might be suffering or dying while they planned their approach. Military training had taught him to balance tactical patience with urgent action when lives hung in the balance. Corporal Danny Scout Williams, a former Army Ranger whose reconnaissance skills made him invaluable for complex operations, had been conducting perimeter surveillance while the leadership team planned their approach. What he discovered would transform their rescue mission into something far more urgent and dangerous. "Steele, you need to see this," Scout radioed from his position near the warehouse's rear entrance. "I have visual confirmation of injured animals, blood evidence, and what appears to be a recent fighting event. We're not just looking at a breeding operation. This is an active fighting ring. If you've watched this far, say in the comments, what secret do you keep?" The revelation that they had discovered an active dogfighting operation, rather than just a breeding facility, changed everything about their tactical approach. Fighting rings were violent enterprises that attracted dangerous people willing to commit serious crimes, and the animals involved were often subjected to torture, starvation, and forced combat that could kill them within hours. Steele's decision to proceed was influenced by intelligence that Scout continued to provide from his reconnaissance position. "Steele, I have eyes on a female dog with multiple puppies in a basement cage," Scout reported. "She's showing signs of severe stress, possible medical distress, and the puppies appear to be very young, maybe days old." The image of a mother dog trying to protect newborn puppies in the basement of a fighting operation created an urgency that transcended normal tactical caution. Steele had worked with military working dogs who had been killed protecting their handlers, and he understood the bond between parent and offspring that existed across species lines. "All units, we're going in," Steele announced through the radio network. "Standard animal rescue protocol with elevated security measures. Phoenix, Doc, Scout and I take point. Everyone else establishes perimeter and coordinates with emergency services." The approach to the warehouse required precision that balanced animal welfare with human safety. The Desert Guardians had to assume that the fighting ring operators were armed and willing to use violence to protect their operation, while also moving quickly enough to prevent harm to animals who might be killed to destroy evidence. Phoenix led the entry team, her military training and animal expertise making her the logical choice for initial contact with whatever they found inside the warehouse. The building's interior was even worse than their intelligence had suggested. Dozens of dogs in various stages of injury and malnutrition, makeshift fighting pits stained with blood, and evidence of systematic animal torture. "Jesus fucking Christ," Phoenix whispered, as she surveyed the basement area where the worst conditions existed. "Steele, we have multiple animals in critical condition, evidence of forced breeding, and a mother dog with newborns who needs immediate medical intervention. The scene that greeted the rescue team in the basement was something that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Luna lay in a wire cage barely large enough for her body, her 6 puppies nursing weakly while she maintained alert vigilance against threats she couldn't fight. Her body showed evidence of months or years of abuse, bite scars, malnutrition, and the kind of psychological trauma that came from being used as a training target for fighting dogs. "Doc, immediate medical assessment," Steele ordered as they secured the area and confirmed that the human operators had fled when they heard the motorcycles approaching. "What are we looking at in terms of animal welfare and survival?" Dr. Thompson approached Luna's cage slowly, using the calm, non-threatening demeanor he had learned during military veterinary service. The mother dog's response was heartbreaking. She tried to position her body between her puppies and the approaching human, despite being too weak to pose any real defensive threat. Severe malnutrition, multiple untreated bite wounds, signs of forced breeding and psychological trauma consistent with bait dog usage, Doc reported as he conducted his examination. The puppies are maybe 4 days old, underweight, but nursing successfully. Both mother and pups need immediate veterinary intervention. If you're enjoying the story, write from which city you're listening to in the comments. The rescue operation that followed demonstrated why the Desert Guardians had become legendary among Arizona animal welfare organizations. 47 bikers coordinated with veterinary medical teams, law enforcement agencies, and animal control officers to safely remove 38 dogs from conditions that represented some of the worst animal cruelty anyone had ever documented. Luna and her puppies received priority medical attention, but their rescue was complicated by the psychological trauma that months of abuse had created. The mother dog's protective instincts were so heightened that she initially refused to allow anyone near her offspring, even people who were trying to help them. "She doesn't understand that we're here to help," Phoenix observed, as she worked patiently to gain Luna's trust. "She's been conditioned to view all humans as threats to her babies." The breakthrough came when Phoenix used techniques she had learned during military animal handling training. Instead of approaching Luna directly, she sat quietly near the cage and allowed the dog to observe her non-threatening behavior while speaking in calm, reassuring tones. "It's okay, Mama," Phoenix said softly, using the gentle voice that had comforted wounded military dogs during her army service. "We're here to help you and your babies. No one's going to hurt you anymore." Luna's response was gradual but unmistakable. The exhausted mother dog began to relax slightly, her defensive posture softening as she recognized that Phoenix represented protection rather than threat. The trust-building process took over an hour, but it was essential for ensuring that Luna could be safely transported to veterinary care. The moment when Luna finally allowed Phoenix to gently lift her and her puppies from their cage was witnessed by the entire Desert Guardians rescue team. Hardened veterans who had seen combat in Iraq and Afghanistan found themselves emotional as they watched a mother dog's first experience of human kindness after months of systematic abuse. "Package secured," Steele announced through the radio network, using military terminology that somehow made the emotional moment more manageable. "Mother and pups are safe. All units prepare for medical evacuation." The convoy that transported Luna and her family to the emergency veterinary hospital was unlike anything Phoenix had ever seen during her 9 years with the Desert Guardians. 47 motorcycles escorting an ambulance through the desert, their riders understanding that they had just saved lives that would otherwise have been lost to human cruelty. 8 months after the warehouse raid, Luna had transformed from a terrified, traumatized breeding dog into a confident, affectionate companion whose recovery represented one of the most successful rehabilitation cases in Arizona animal welfare history. The Desert Guardians had not only saved her life, they had helped her rediscover the joy and trust that systematic abuse had nearly destroyed. Steele Rodriguez sat in the play yard of the Desert Guardians Animal Sanctuary, watching Luna interact with Phoenix and her 6 now adolescent puppies in what had become a daily ritual of family bonding and exercise. The 40-acre facility had been established specifically to provide long-term care for animals rescued from fighting operations, and Luna's family had become its most famous residents. "Look at that," Steele said to Phoenix as Luna demonstrated a perfect sit command before receiving a treat from her favorite human. 6 months ago, she wouldn't let anyone within 10 feet of her puppies. Now she's showing off her training like a proud mother. Phoenix smiled as she watched Luna's transformation, understanding that the dog's recovery represented much more than medical healing. She's learned to trust again, Phoenix observed. But more than that, she's learned that humans can be protectors instead of predators. The relationship between Luna and the Desert Guardians had evolved far beyond the dramatic rescue that had brought them together. The mother dog had become their unofficial mascot and their most powerful advocate for animal welfare education, demonstrating to thousands of visitors that even the most traumatized animals could heal with proper care and patience. "Tell me about the adoption applications," Steele requested, noting the thick stack of paperwork on Phoenix's desk related to Luna's family. "We've received over 3,000 applications from families who want to adopt Luna or her puppies," Phoenix explained, with a mixture of pride and concern. "But we're being extremely selective because of their history and the specialized care they still require." The adoption process for Luna's family was complicated by their background and the ongoing need for specialized behavioral support. The Desert Guardians had established strict criteria for potential adopters, requiring extensive background checks, home visits, and commitments to continued veterinary and behavioral care. Dr. Sarah Martinez, the veterinary behaviorist who had overseen Luna's rehabilitation, had developed a comprehensive assessment protocol that evaluated not just the dog's current condition, but their long-term potential for successful placement. Each member of Luna's family required different approaches based on their individual personalities and trauma responses. Luna's recovery demonstrates something remarkable about the resilience of animals and the power of consistent patient care, Dr. Martinez reported during a presentation to the American Veterinary Medical Association. But it also shows us how much specialized knowledge is required to help severely traumatized animals learn to trust again. If you're enjoying the story, write from which city you are listening to in the comments. The rehabilitation program that Phoenix had designed combined military animal handling techniques with cutting-edge animal behavior therapy, creating a model that was being studied by animal welfare organizations throughout North America. Luna's case had become a textbook example of trauma recovery in domestic animals. The key was understanding that Luna's trust issues weren't just psychological. They were survival adaptations that had kept her alive in an extremely dangerous environment. Dr. Martinez explained to veterinary students who came to study the program. Healing required giving her new experiences that gradually replaced fear with confidence. The Desert Guardian's approach emphasized patience, consistency, and respect for Luna's own pace of recovery. Instead of forcing interactions or rushing her progress, they allowed her to set the boundaries while providing consistent opportunities for positive human contact. Luna's daily routine at the sanctuary had been carefully designed to rebuild her confidence while honoring her traumatic past. Morning walks with Phoenix allowed for one-on-one bonding time. Midday training sessions with various staff members helped her generalize trust beyond a single person. Afternoon play periods with her puppies maintained family bonds while encouraging natural behaviors. Evening meals were served by different volunteers, teaching Luna that multiple humans could provide care and nourishment without expecting anything harmful in return. The gradual expansion of her trusted human network represented crucial progress in her psychological rehabilitation. Luna's puppies had each developed unique personalities that reflected both their genetic heritage and their early experiences in human care. Hope, the smallest of the litter, had overcome her initial frailty to become a therapy dog candidate whose gentle demeanor and intuitive understanding of human emotions made her perfect for working with children recovering from trauma. Faith, the most intellectually curious of the puppies, showed exceptional problem-solving abilities and trainability that suggested potential for complex working roles such as search and rescue or medical detection work. Her eagerness to learn new commands and her persistent attention to detail impressed every trainer who worked with her. Courage lived up to his name by displaying confident, protective instincts without aggression, making him suitable for security work or police partnerships. His ability to assess situations calmly and respond appropriately to genuine threats demonstrated the kind of intelligence and temperament that professional working dog programs sought. Justice had developed strong pack leadership qualities and worked exceptionally well with other dogs, making him ideal for families with existing pets or for roles in animal-assisted therapy programs where he could help other dogs overcome their own behavioral challenges. Freedom showed high energy levels and exceptional athleticism that suggested natural ability for competitive sports such as agility trials, dock diving, or other activities that would challenge both his physical capabilities and his mental acuity. His enthusiasm for physical challenges was balanced by remarkable focus and trainability. Phoenix, named for her rescuer, had become the family's ambassador, displaying the perfect combination of confidence, intelligence, and social skills that made her an ideal candidate for animal-assisted therapy programs. Her ability to read human emotions and respond appropriately had impressed child psychologists who observed her interactions with young patients. If you've watched this far, say in the comments, what secret do you keep? The Desert Guardians had developed specialized placement programs for each member of Luna's family, recognizing that their unique backgrounds and abilities made them suitable for different types of homes and work environments. The process required extensive coordination with professional trainers, therapeutic organizations, and carefully screened families who understood the commitment involved in caring for animals with complex needs. Hope's placement with Phoenix Children's Hospital required 6 months of intensive preparation and training. The hospital's child life specialists worked closely with Desert Guardians trainers to ensure that Hope could handle the emotional demands of working with seriously ill children while maintaining her own psychological well-being. Hope has an intuitive understanding of human pain that we've never seen in a therapy animal, reported Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the hospital's chief pediatric psychologist. She seems to know exactly when a child needs comfort and when they need space. Her presence in our pediatric oncology unit has created measurable improvements in patient anxiety levels and treatment compliance. Hope's work with cancer patients became particularly meaningful when she formed a special bond with 8-year-old Maria Santos, who was undergoing chemotherapy treatments that left her weak and frightened. Hope would lie quietly beside Maria's hospital bed during treatments, providing comfort that human caregivers couldn't offer. "Hope understands exactly how scared I am," Maria explained to her parents during one of her treatment sessions. "When she's with me, I know everything is going to be okay." The therapeutic relationship between Hope and Maria became a case study for animal-assisted therapy programs throughout the Southwest, demonstrating the unique healing potential of animals who had overcome their own trauma to help humans face theirs. Faith's placement with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department's Search and Rescue Unit required 8 months of intensive training that tested both her physical abilities and her psychological resilience. The program's training coordinator, Sergeant Maria Rodriguez, had initially been skeptical about accepting a dog from a fighting ring background. "Faith proved that genetics and environment aren't destiny," Sergeant Rodriguez reported, after Faith's graduation from the search and rescue program. Her intelligence, determination, and problem-solving abilities exceeded those of dogs from traditional breeding programs. She located her first missing person within 3 weeks of being certified. Faith's first successful search involved finding a 73-year-old man with dementia who had wandered away from his care facility into the Sonoran Desert. The search had been ongoing for 18 hours when Faith picked up his scent and led rescuers to a ravine where the man had fallen and injured his ankle. "Faith saved my grandfather's life," said the man's granddaughter, Rebecca Martinez. "The doctor said he wouldn't have survived another night in the desert. She's a hero." Faith's success in search and rescue work demonstrated the potential that proper training could unlock in dogs whose backgrounds might otherwise have limited their opportunities. Her story became an inspiration for other rescue organizations working with animals from fighting operations. If you're enjoying the story, write from which city you are listening to in the comments. Courage's placement with Army veteran Michael Thompson, who was struggling with post-traumatic stress from his service in Iraq, created a partnership that provided therapeutic benefits for both human and animal. Michael had been resistant to traditional therapy approaches, but found healing through his relationship with a dog who had also survived trauma. "Courage understands things about fear and recovery that humans can't explain," Michael reflected during a Veterans Administration study of animal-assisted therapy. "He doesn't judge me when I have flashbacks, and he knows how to help me get through them." The bond between Michael and Courage became so strong that the veteran began volunteering with Desert Guardians rescue operations, using his military training to help other animals escape dangerous situations. His recovery through service demonstrated the therapeutic value of finding purpose in helping others. "Michael and Courage saved each other," observed Dr. Patricia Williams, a psychologist who studied human-animal therapeutic relationships. Their partnership shows that healing often happens through mutual support and shared experience rather than traditional clinical interventions. Justice's placement with the Morrison family, parents Jennifer and David, along with their 3 children and 2 adult rescue dogs, required careful integration planning to ensure that the new addition would enhance rather than disrupt the existing household dynamics. Justice's natural pack leadership abilities made him ideal for this complex family situation. Justice became our family's emotional barometer, Jennifer Morrison explained during a follow-up interview 6 months after the adoption. He helps our other dogs stay calm during thunderstorms, and he's incredibly gentle with our youngest child, who has special needs. Justice's ability to read and respond to family dynamics had helped him become not just a pet, but a therapeutic presence that enhanced the emotional well-being of every family member. His success demonstrated the value of careful matching between animals and adopters based on detailed behavioral assessments. Freedom's placement with professional dog trainer and agility competitor Sarah Chen provided opportunities for the high-energy dog to excel in competitive sports, while maintaining the mental stimulation that his intelligence required. Freedom's athletic abilities and eagerness to learn had made him a natural for agility training. Freedom approaches agility courses like puzzles to be solved, Sarah observed after 6 months of training. His background taught him resilience and determination that translates perfectly to competitive sports. He's already qualifying for regional championships. Freedom's success in agility competitions became a powerful demonstration that dogs from fighting backgrounds could excel in positive competitive activities when given proper training and outlets for their energy and intelligence. If you've watched this far, say in the comments, what secret do you keep? Phoenix, the puppy named for her rescuer, remained at the Desert Guardian Sanctuary, where she was being trained as an animal-assisted therapy specialist who could help other traumatized animals learn to trust humans again. Her unique background and exceptional social skills made her perfect for this specialized role. Phoenix represents the best possible outcome of rescue and rehabilitation, Steele explained to visitors who came to learn about their programs. She's not just recovered from her own trauma, she's using that experience to help other animals heal. Phoenix's work with newly rescued animals had proven remarkably effective. Her presence seemed to communicate to frightened dogs that humans could be trusted, and her calm confidence provided a model for appropriate behavior that traumatized animals could observe and imitate. The most challenging case Phoenix helped with involved a 3-year-old fighting dog named Titan, who had been so severely abused that he showed aggressive responses to any human contact. Traditional rehabilitation approaches had failed, but Phoenix's intervention created the breakthrough that animal behaviorists had been seeking. Phoenix approached Titan without fear or aggression, reported animal behaviorist Dr. Michael Chen, who supervised the rehabilitation process. Her confidence and social skills gradually convinced him that not all interactions with other beings had to be violent. Titan's successful rehabilitation and eventual placement with a family, experienced in handling special needs animals, became another testament to Phoenix's unique abilities and the power of animal-to-animal therapeutic relationships. Luna herself had become the most complex placement case, not because of behavioral problems, but because of her symbolic importance to the Desert Guardians and the thousands of people who had followed her recovery story through social media, news coverage, and documentary films about animal rescue. Multiple families had offered to adopt Luna, including celebrities, wealthy philanthropists, and animal welfare advocates who wanted to provide her with every possible luxury and comfort. But the Desert Guardian struggled with the decision to separate her from the community that had saved and healed her. The solution came from an unexpected source. Phoenix Martinez requested to adopt Luna personally, understanding that their bond represented something deeper than professional animal care. Luna saved me as much as I saved her, Phoenix explained during the adoption interview process. Working with her taught me patience, empathy, and the kind of healing that I didn't know I needed. Phoenix's military service had left her with psychological scars that traditional veteran services hadn't addressed effectively. Her relationship with Luna had provided therapeutic benefits that went both ways. The dog learned to trust humans, while Phoenix learned to process her own trauma through caring for another wounded soul. This adoption represents something unprecedented in our experience, noted Dr. Martinez during the evaluation process. Both the human and the animal have provided mutual healing that exceeded what either could have achieved through traditional therapy. The adoption evaluation process was extensive, involving home visits, psychological assessments, and consultations with veterinary behaviorists who needed to ensure that Luna's continued progress wouldn't be compromised by the change in her living situation. If you're enjoying the story, write from which city you are listening to in the comments. The formal adoption ceremony took place at the sanctuary, with over 200 Desert Guardians members, animal welfare advocates, and community supporters attending to witness the official recognition of a relationship that had been building for 8 months. Luna wore a special collar decorated with charms representing each phase of her recovery journey. "Today we're not just celebrating an adoption," Steele addressed the gathered crowd. "We're celebrating the power of healing that happens when broken souls find each other and help each other become whole again." Luna's adoption by Phoenix meant that she would continue serving as an ambassador for animal welfare education while living in a home where she would receive the love, care, and respect that every animal deserved. The arrangement also allowed her to maintain regular contact with the sanctuary and continue her work helping other rescued animals. The Desert Guardians Animal Sanctuary had expanded significantly since Luna's rescue, growing from a small volunteer organization operating out of donated barn space to a comprehensive animal welfare facility that occupied 40 acres of specialized buildings and exercise areas designed specifically for animals recovering from trauma. Luna's case taught us that animal rescue isn't just about removing animals from bad situations, Steele reflected during the sanctuary's annual fundraising event, which had grown to attract over 5,000 attendees. Real rescue means providing the long-term care, training, and placement services that give animals opportunities for full, meaningful lives. The sanctuary now operated multiple specialized programs inspired by lessons learned during Luna's rehabilitation. The trauma recovery program had developed protocols for helping animals overcome psychological damage from abuse that were being adopted by facilities throughout North America. The behavioral assessment and placement program used detailed psychological evaluations to match rescued animals with adopters based on compatibility factors that went far beyond basic breed preferences. The success rate for adoptions completed through this program exceeded 97%, with fewer than 3% of animals being returned due to behavioral incompatibilities. The Professional Working Dog Program identified rescued animals with exceptional abilities and provided specialized training for careers in law enforcement, medical detection, search and rescue, and therapeutic services. This program had placed over 100 rescued animals in professional roles where their specialized training made them valuable contributors to public safety and human health services. If you've watched this far, say in the comments, what secret do you keep? 1 year after the warehouse raid, the Desert Guardians had become the most respected animal welfare organization in the Southwest, with their rehabilitation model being studied by universities, government agencies, and animal welfare groups throughout North America. Luna's story had been featured in documentaries, academic research, and media coverage that brought national attention to the issues of dogfighting and animal abuse. The anniversary celebration brought together over 3,000 people whose lives had been touched by Luna's story or the broader work of the Desert Guardians. The event included demonstrations of animal training techniques, educational presentations about recognizing signs of animal abuse, and testimonials from families who had adopted rescued animals. Luna took center stage during the celebration, demonstrating the training and confidence that 12 months of patient rehabilitation had achieved. Her performance included basic obedience commands, agility exercises, interaction with children, and cooperation with veterinary examinations, all behaviors that would have been impossible during her first weeks in rescue. 1 year ago, Luna was a broken, traumatized mother dog whose only experience with humans involved pain and fear. Phoenix addressed the massive crowd during the anniversary ceremony. Today she represents hope, healing, and the incredible resilience that animals possess when they're given the love and support they deserve. The emotional impact of Luna's transformation was visible throughout the audience, but her story also represented something larger about the Desert Guardians' mission and values. They had proven that motorcycle clubs could be forces for protection and healing rather than intimidation and conflict. The anniversary celebration also marked the launch of the Luna Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to funding animal rescue operations, supporting legislation against animal cruelty, and providing resources for organizations working to combat dogfighting and other forms of animal abuse. The Foundation's first major initiative was a grant program that provided funding for small animal rescue organizations to develop trauma rehabilitation capabilities similar to those pioneered by the Desert Guardians. The program aimed to create a network of specialized facilities that could handle the most challenging animal welfare cases. Luna's story shows us what's possible when people refuse to give up on animals that others consider hopeless, explained Foundation Director Rebecca Martinez during the program's announcement. We want to give other organizations the resources they need to achieve similar success stories. 2 years after the rescue, Dr. Luna, she had been awarded an honorary doctorate in animal therapy from Arizona State University in recognition of her therapeutic work, had become an international symbol of animal resilience and the power of dedicated rehabilitation. Her story had inspired legislation strengthening animal cruelty laws in 12 states and had contributed to federal funding for animal welfare programs. Luna's therapeutic work with Phoenix had expanded beyond the sanctuary to include visits to hospitals, schools, veteran centers, and rehabilitation facilities where her calm presence and remarkable recovery story provided comfort and inspiration to humans facing their own challenges. Luna understands suffering in ways that most therapy animals never will, explained Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a psychologist who had studied human-animal therapeutic relationships. Her presence tells people that healing is possible, even from the worst experiences. She's living proof that trauma doesn't have to define your future. If you're enjoying the story, write from which city you are listening to in the comments. Luna's work with pediatric cancer patients had become particularly impactful, as children undergoing frightening medical procedures found comfort in an animal who had also survived trauma and abuse. Her visits to children's hospitals throughout the Southwest had become legendary among medical staff who witnessed her therapeutic effects. When Luna comes to visit, our patients' anxiety levels drop measurably, reported Dr. Susan Chen, Chief of Pediatric Oncology at Banner Children's Hospital. She seems to know exactly which children need her most, and she has an uncanny ability to provide comfort at exactly the right moment. Luna's story had also become the subject of children's books, educational curricula, and documentary films that taught young people about animal welfare, empathy, and the importance of treating all creatures with kindness and respect. Her image appeared on educational materials used in schools throughout Arizona to teach children about responsible pet ownership and recognizing signs of animal abuse. The Desert Guardians had grown to over 200 active members across 6 states, with chapters providing animal rescue services, rehabilitation programs, and educational outreach that served thousands of animals annually. Their success had attracted support from major animal welfare organizations, veterinary schools, and government agencies interested in replicating their innovative approaches. But their greatest achievement was measured in individual transformations. Animals like Luna, who had been saved from cruelty and given opportunities for full, meaningful lives, and humans like Phoenix, who had found healing through service to creatures who needed protection and care. The warehouse where Luna had been held captive had been converted into an educational center where visitors could learn about animal welfare, responsible pet ownership, and the signs of animal abuse that community members should report to authorities. The transformation of the building from a site of cruelty to a center for education and awareness represented the kind of positive change that defined the Desert Guardians' approach to community service. Phoenix Martinez had left her military career to become a full-time animal welfare advocate, using Luna's story and her own expertise to develop training programs for law enforcement officers, animal control agencies, and rescue organizations throughout North America. Their partnership had become a model for human-animal therapeutic relationships that was studied by researchers and practitioners worldwide. Luna saved more than her own life that day, Phoenix reflected during a presentation to the International Association of Animal Welfare Organizations. She saved mine too, and she's been saving others ever since through her therapeutic work and her story's impact on animal welfare policy. 5 years after the rescue, Luna's legacy lived on in policy changes that had strengthened animal protection laws, educational programs that had reached hundreds of thousands of children, and therapeutic relationships that had helped both animals and humans heal from trauma. The Desert Guardians Animal Sanctuary had expanded to encompass 240 acres of specialized facilities that provided care for over 300 animals at any given time. The Luna Rehabilitation Center, named in honor of their most famous success story, had become the premier facility for treating animals recovering from abuse, neglect, and trauma. If you've watched this far, say in the comments, what secret do you keep? 10 years after 47 bikers had stopped everything to rescue a mother dog and her puppies from an illegal fighting ring, Luna's story continued to inspire animal welfare advocates worldwide. Her transformation from victim to healer had been documented in academic research, featured in international media, and cited in legal cases involving animal cruelty prosecutions. The fighting ring that had victimized Luna was long gone, its operators serving lengthy prison sentences for animal cruelty, racketeering, and other criminal charges. But the protection that had surrounded her that day had created a movement that continued to expand throughout the animal welfare community. Luna, now 13 years old and showing signs of age but still working as a therapy animal, had helped hundreds of other animals learn to trust humans again. Her puppies had grown into accomplished working dogs whose contributions to law enforcement, medical services, and therapeutic programs had saved numerous human lives. The Desert Guardians had trained rescue teams in over 30 states and 12 countries, establishing a global network of motorcycle clubs dedicated to animal protection that had rescued thousands of animals from abuse, neglect, and dangerous situations. The mainstream media had eventually discovered Luna's story, but only after it had already inspired a movement that transformed how people understood the relationship between motorcycle clubs and animal welfare. National television networks, magazines, and online platforms had featured stories about the Desert Guardians that challenged stereotypes and highlighted positive community contributions. The Desert Guardians proved that the most unlikely heroes often come from the most unexpected places, observed television journalist Maria Rodriguez during a feature story about Luna's rescue. These bikers didn't just save one dog family, they saved thousands of animals and inspired millions of people to care about animal welfare. But for Luna, Phoenix, and the Desert Guardians, media recognition was secondary to the practical reality that they had saved lives and created opportunities for healing that wouldn't have existed otherwise. Their success was measured not in publicity, but in the thousands of animals who had been rescued, rehabilitated, and placed in loving homes. The biker club that had stopped everything to save one dog family had created a legacy that continued to protect innocent animals throughout North America and beyond. Luna's story demonstrated that angels sometimes wear leather, ride motorcycles, and proved that the strongest people are those who use their strength to protect creatures who can't protect themselves. Her transformation from victim to symbol of hope showed that healing was possible even from the worst experiences, and that love could overcome any amount of previous trauma. The Desert Guardians had proven that real brotherhood includes every innocent life that needs protection, regardless of species, and that the best way to honor rescue is to keep rescuing others who need the same chance for healing and hope.